The Texas Rangers rode in at dawn with the righteousness of crusaders. Sarah Kelly sat outside the tipi when they came. Her hands worked a buffalo hide, scraping fat from the underside with a bone tool. The motion never stopped. Not when the hoofbeats thundered across the plain. Not when Captain Morrison dismounted with his hand on his pistol grip. She wore deerskin. Her hair hung in 2 braids wrapped with trade beads. The sun had turned her skin the color of creek clay. She didn't look up. Morrison spoke. His words meant nothing. She kept scraping. The Rangers spread out. Carbines ready. They expected resistance. What they found was a camp already abandoned. The lodges stood empty. Cookfires cold. Only Sarah remained, working that hide like she had all the time in the world. Morrison grabbed her wrist. The bone tool clattered to the dirt. She looked at him then. Her eyes held nothing, not fear, not relief, just the flat distance of the plains themselves. "Miss Kelly," Morrison said. "You're safe now." She said nothing. Behind the tipi, in the shade where the Rangers couldn't see, a cradleboard leaned against a willow frame. Empty now. The soft rabbit fur lining still held the shape of a small body. Sarah's milk had come in 2 moons ago. Her breasts ached under the doeskin dress. Morrison pulled her to her feet. She didn't resist. Resistance was a waste of energy. She'd learned that in the first month. Before Koikon taught her that survival meant becoming water flowing around obstacles, finding the path of least resistance, wearing down stone with patience. They put her on a horse, not her paint mare. A cavalry mount that smelled wrong, like grain and iron shoes and fierce sweat. The Rangers formed up around her. Protection, they called it. It looked like a cage. As they rode east, Sarah turned once. Just her head, a slight movement. On the ridgeline, 300 yards distant, a figure sat on horseback. The morning sun made a silhouette. She couldn't see his face, didn't need to. She knew the set of those shoulders. The way he sat a horse like he'd grown from its back. Koikon didn't move, didn't raise a hand. The Kiowa didn't waste gestures on things already understood. Sarah faced forward. Morrison mistook her compliance for gratitude. They rode toward Fort Richardson, toward walls and wood floors and the suffocating weight of what they called civilization. Sarah counted the miles in hoofbeats, calculated the distance back, noted the landmarks, a lightning-struck cottonwood, an outcropping of red rock, a creek that bent south. The Rangers talked around her, about her, never to her. "Poor thing's broken," one said. Another, 3 years with savages. Imagine what she's endured. They had no idea what she'd endured, or what she'd learned, or what she'd become. At noon they stopped to water the horses. Morrison offered her hardtack. She took it, ate it without expression. The food tasted like dust and old flour. Nothing like the pemmican she'd learned to make. Berries and fat and dried meat pounded together. Food that could keep a person alive through a winter that killed the unprepared. She watched the Rangers, how they moved, where they kept their weapons, who watched the perimeter and who didn't. Weaknesses everywhere. They thought their numbers made them strong. They were wrong. Numbers made noise, made decisions slow, made coordination necessary. One woman made no noise at all. Morrison came close, too close. The smell of him tobacco and unwashed wool and whiskey made her stomach turn. "Your brother's been looking for you," he said. 3 years, Miss Kelly. He never gave up hope. Sarah's jaw tightened. The only visible reaction she allowed herself. Silas. The name tasted like copper in her mouth. The captain smiled, thought he'd broken through, thought he'd found the grateful captive underneath the savage exterior. He had no idea he was looking at a Kiowa woman who'd traded one life for another and had no intention of trading back. Fort Richardson rose from the prairie like a wound. Wooden walls, tin roofs. The geometric certainty of corners and right angles. Sarah's eyes hurt looking at it. 3 years of horizons and the organic curve of Tippis. and she'd forgotten how humans forced the world into shapes it didn't want to hold. They passed through the gate at sunset. Soldiers stared. She felt their eyes like hands, cataloging, judging, trying to reconcile the sun-dark woman in buckskin with whatever story they'd been told. About the Kelly girl taken from a wagon train in '72. Morrison led her to the commandant's office. More walls. A ceiling that pressed down like a hand on her chest. The air inside didn't move. Stale and thick with lamp oil and paper dust. A man stood when she entered. Silas Kelly had aged. His hair showed gray at the temples. New lines cut deep around his mouth. But his eyes held the same fervent certainty they always had, the absolute conviction that he alone knew the righteous path. "Sarah," his voice cracked. "Sweet merciful God." He moved toward her, arms outstretched. She stepped back. A single step, precise. The movement stopped him like a wall. "She's been through an ordeal," Morrison said. "Needs time." Silas nodded. But his hands clenched. Sarah saw it, noted it, filed it away. "Of course," Silas said. "Of course, I've prepared a room. Clean clothes. Everything proper. Proper." The word hung in the air like smoke. They walked through the fort. Silas talked. A constant stream of words about God's providence and answered prayers and the miracle of her deliverance. Sarah counted steps, memorized the layout, located the stables, the armory, the weak points in the wall where the wood had started to rot. The room he'd prepared sat above a dry goods store. One window, a bed with a frame and mattress, a washstand, a mirror. Sarah looked at the mirror and didn't recognize what looked back. "I'll fetch some water," Silas said. "You'll want to wash. I've laid out a dress, undergarments, everything you need to be yourself again." He left, locked the door from the outside. The click of the bolt shot through her like a gunshot. Sarah stood in the center of the room. 4 walls, 8 feet by 10. Smaller than a tipi. No smoke hole, no way to see the sky. She went to the window. It opened, barely 6 inches before a nail stopped it. Silas had planned for that. Thought of everything. The dress lay on the bed. Blue calico, white lace collar. The fabric felt like punishment against her fingers. Stiff and unyielding, beneath it, the undergarments. A corset, cage within a cage. Sarah picked up the corset, examined the boning. Whalebone or steel, flexible but strong. The laces could be useful. She set it aside. Water sloshed outside. Silas returned with a basin. Set it on the washstand, looked at her expectantly. "I'll give you privacy," he said. "Call when you're dressed." The bolt clicked again. Sarah waited, counted to 100. Listened to his footsteps descend the stairs. Listened to the silence. She stripped off the doeskin dress. The beadwork caught lamplight, red and yellow and white. Koikon's mother had made it, had welcomed Sarah into the tipi, had taught her the stitches, had called her daughter when her own daughter had died of the spotted sickness 2 winters past. Sarah folded it carefully, hid it under the mattress. Not surrender. Strategic retreat. She washed. The water turned brown. Dust and smoke and the smell of the plains sluicing away. Beneath it, her skin showed pale, foreign, the undergarments first. She understood the mechanics, had worn such things before the wagon train, before the raid that killed her parents, before the 3 years that remade her. The corset fought her. She laced it loose. Looser than Silas would approve, tight enough to pass inspection, loose enough to breathe, to move, to run if necessary. The dress came last. She buttoned it with fingers that remembered the motion but rebelled against it. The collar choked, the sleeves constricted. The skirt dragged and caught and made walking a deliberate effort. She looked in the mirror again. A white woman looked back, hair already drying into waves. Eyes that didn't match the face, the 1,000-yard stare they'd called it in the war. The look of someone who'd seen beyond the horizon and couldn't unsee it. She called down the stairs. Silas came. He smiled when he saw her, a smile that made her skin crawl. "There," he said. "That's my sister. That's Sarah." But Sarah Kelly had died 3 years ago on a killing ground beside a burned wagon. The woman wearing her name and her face was someone else entirely. Silas brought food. Beef and potatoes and bread so white it looked like bone. She ate mechanically, tasted nothing. He talked about his plans, a house he'd built, a church community, good Christian people who would help her readjust, help her forget. Sarah nodded in the right places, said nothing. When he finally left, the bolt clicked one more time. She went to the window, looked out at the fort. Beyond it, the prairie stretched dark under stars. Somewhere out there, Koikon rode with what remained of the band. Her son rode in a cradleboard on someone else's back, growing without her. Sarah pressed her palm against the glass. The barrier between worlds. She would cross it again. The how didn't matter yet, only the certainty. The dress whispered against the floor as she moved. She found the corset laces, tested them. Strong enough, long enough, useful. Tomorrow Silas would start his campaign to save her soul. He would fail. You couldn't save someone who didn't want salvation. But he would try. And in trying, he would show her the shape of the cage. And every cage had weak points. Morning came with church bells. Sarah woke to the sound and for a moment didn't know where she was. No lodge poles above her, no smoke smell, no soft breathing of the other women. Just walls and that pressing ceiling and the clanging that split the dawn like an axe. Silas knocked. She dressed quickly, the same blue calico. Her fingers fumbled the buttons. 3 years of buckskin had made her clumsy with civilization's fastenings. He waited in the hall, Bible under one arm. His eyes swept her appearance, cataloging failures. The laces not tight enough, hair not properly pinned, posture too straight, too ready. Women in town slouched under their corsets, wilted like flowers in drought. "We'll work on your presentation," he said. "The ladies of the congregation will help." They descended to breakfast. Eggs and bacon and coffee that tasted burnt. Sarah ate in silence. Silas filled the quiet with plans. A schedule, structure. Monday wash day. Tuesday mending. Wednesday prayer circle. Sunday service. Every hour accounted for. Every moment controlled. After breakfast, the first visitors arrived. Mrs. Henderson, Mrs. Blake, Mrs. Morrison, the captain's wife. They swept in like a flock of crows. Black dresses and tight faces and voices that dripped with sympathetic poison. "Poor dear, such an ordeal, but you're safe now." They sat in Silas's parlor, Sarah in a hard-back chair. The women arranged around her, inspecting, evaluating. Mrs. Henderson leaned close. "We understand you may have been forced into unnatural relations." Sarah's expression didn't change. "The Reverend assures us that your soul can be cleansed, that God's grace extends even to those who've been compromised." The words hung there, ugly and presumptuous. Silas cleared his throat. "My sister has been through enough." "Perhaps. Of course," Mrs. Blake interrupted. "But she must understand the gravity. If she wishes to rejoin proper society, certain standards must be maintained. Certain activities must be addressed." Sarah looked at her, really looked, saw the tight mouth, the nervous hands, the fear underneath the righteousness. These women lived in terror of Indians, of the frontier, of anything that didn't fit their narrow definition of civilization. "I won't speak of it," Sarah said, her first words since the rescue. The women leaned back, surprised she could talk. "That's appropriate," Mrs. Henderson said. "Some things are better left unspoken. We'll focus on your rehabilitation." They left an hour later. In their wake, Silas seemed energized, purposeful. "You see," he said, "good Christian women. They'll guide you back." Sarah said nothing. That afternoon, he brought her possessions. Everything the Rangers had found. Her buckskin dress, moccasins, the bone-scraping tool, a small medicine bag, Koikone's gift. Inside, sage and a smooth river stone and an eagle feather. Silas spread them on the kitchen table like evidence. Like sin made manifest. These can't remain, he said. They're reminders of captivity, of degradation. Sarah's hands went still. They're mine. They're chains. His voice rose. Passionate now, convinced. Chains binding you to savagery, to darkness. I won't allow it. He gathered them up. The dress that had taken weeks to properly smoke and tan. The moccasins decorated with porcupine quills. The medicine bag that held 3 years of memory. What are you doing? What I should have done immediately. He moved toward the door. Cleansing you properly. Sarah stood. Silas, it's for your own good. He went outside. To the yard behind the house, she followed. He'd built a fire already. Prepared, had planned this moment. The buckskin dress went first. He held it at arm's length, like it might contaminate him. Threw it onto the flames. The hide caught slowly, smoldered, then flared. The beadwork blackened. The careful stitching curled and vanished. Sarah watched her second mother's work turn to ash. She didn't move, didn't speak. Emotion was a luxury, weakness. The moccasins followed. The quillwork popped in the heat. Then the medicine bag. No, the word came out flat, final. Silas hesitated. Sarah, that's sacred. It's heathen superstition. It's mine. They stood on opposite sides of the fire. Smoke rising between them. Brother and sister and a gulf 3 years wide. I'm trying to save you, Silas said. Can't you see that? Sarah saw everything. Saw his conviction. His fear. His absolute certainty that his way was the only way. The same certainty that had driven the Rangers. That drove the soldiers and settlers and everyone who called the plains empty just because they didn't understand what filled them. You already saved me, she said. Congratulations. The medicine bag hit the flames. The eagle feather caught fire like a torch. The sage released smoke that smelled like home. The river stone cracked in the heat. Sarah watched until nothing remained but ash and ember. Then she turned, walked back inside, up the stairs. To her room. Silas called after her. She didn't respond. The bolt clicked. He'd installed one on this door, too. Locked from outside. Sarah sat on the bed. Her hands trembled. She pressed them flat against her thighs, breathed, counted breaths, centered herself the way Koikone had taught her. Anger was fuel. Use it, don't let it use you. Through the window, the sun set red over the plains. Out there, the band would be making camp, setting up lodges. Cooking fires lighting against the dusk, children playing. The easy rhythm of people who knew their place in the world. Here, she sat in a cage built by someone who loved her. The worst kind of prison. But Koikone had taught her about prisons too. How the Kiowa had been pushed and pushed and pushed. How they'd learned to adapt, to survive. To take from the invaders what was useful and discard the rest. Sarah stood, went to the washstand, opened the drawer. Inside, pins, needles, thread, the tools of proper womanhood. She selected the longest pin, tested its point against her thumb. Sharp enough. Every lock had weak points. Every cage could be opened. She just needed time, patience, the same patience she'd used to learn Kiowa, to earn Koikone's trust, to become someone new. Outside, Silas tended his cleansing fire, making sure every trace burned away. He had no idea what he'd just ignited. Sarah learned to move quietly. The house had 3 rooms, parlor, kitchen, bedroom upstairs. She mapped every creaking board, tested each step, found the paths that made no sound. At night, when Silas slept, she practiced. Barefoot on the wooden floors, heel to toe, weight distributed. The way Koikone had shown her when teaching her to stalk deer. The settlement of Jacksboro spread around the fort like a tumor, 40 buildings. Maybe 300 people. Every structure an insult to the land beneath it. Boxes and angles and roofs that fought the wind instead of yielding to it. Silas worked as a clerk at the fort. Gone from dawn to dusk, he locked her in during the day. Thought he was protecting her, thought she needed protecting. The lock took her 3 days to master, the pin from the washstand. Bent just right. Worked into the mechanism with patience born of buffalo hunts, where she'd waited 6 hours without moving for the right shot. Click. The bolt slid back. She didn't leave immediately. Waited. Planned. On the 4th day, she descended the stairs while Silas still slept. Made coffee the way he liked it. Set out his breakfast. Became the grateful sister he wanted. "You seem better," he said, surprised. "I'm trying." The lie came easily. Survival required many skills. Deception among them. "I'm proud of you." She nodded. Kept her face neutral. That afternoon he came home early. Found her darning socks. A picture of domestic rehabilitation. "Perhaps you're ready for some supervised outings," he said. "Church on Sunday. With proper escort." "I'd like that." His smile could have lit the room. Poor fool thought he'd won. Sunday came. Sarah dressed in the blue calico. Let Mrs. Henderson pin her hair properly. Endured the women's approving nods. The church service lasted 2 hours. The Reverend preached about salvation and redemption and the cleansing power of Christian forgiveness. Sarah sat motionless. Appeared to listen. Used the time to study the congregation. 47 people, 23 men, 18 women, 6 children. She cataloged them, noted who sat where, who watched her, who looked away. After service, she stood outside with the other women while the men discussed business. She listened. Not to the women's conversation quilting patterns and recipes, and whose daughter was courting whom. She listened past them. To the men. Heard another ranch hit last week. Kiowa or Comanche. Does it matter? Indians is Indians. Fort's sending out more patrols. But there's too much ground to cover. Sarah kept her expression placid. Interested in nothing, revealed nothing. That night, she didn't lock from the inside. At midnight, when the settlement slept, she opened her door. The house silent, Silas snoring in his room below. She descended like smoke. Out the back door, into the night. The moon hung half full. Enough light to move. Not enough to expose her. She wore dark clothes, had prepared them. A work dress stained with ash. No white collar to catch light. She moved through Jacksboro like something that belonged there. No hurry. No stealth so obvious it drew attention. Just a woman walking. If anyone saw, they'd assume she had business. A sick relative. Some womanly emergency. No one saw. She walked the perimeter, noted the locations. The general store, the saloon, the stable, the telegraph office. The small jail, most important, the armory at the fort, where they kept the rifles, the ammunition, the supplies. She didn't approach. Just observed. Distance and angle and routine. The guard changed every 4 hours. Young soldiers who fought sleep. Who walked predictable patterns. Who got sloppy near dawn. She returned before first light. Up the stairs. Door closed. Back in bed. Silas never knew she'd gone. The next night, she went farther, beyond the settlement. To the places where the buildings gave way to prairie. She read the ground. Found tracks, cattle, horses, men on horseback riding patrol, and others, unshod ponies, 3 riders. Moving south, 5 days old. Not Koikone's band, different sign. But Kiowa nonetheless. Sarah crouched. Touched the earth where the hoofprints pressed. Felt the connection like electricity. Out there, her people still moved, still lived, still fought for every mile of ground the settlers claimed. She committed the trail to memory, then erased her own tracks on the way back. Days became routine. She played the recovered captive, attended church, joined the women's prayer circle, smiled when expected, spoke little. Let them interpret her silence as trauma. Nights became her own. She mapped Jacksboro. Every building, every alley, every route in and out. She learned schedules. Who drank at the saloon until late? Who rose early? Who left doors unlocked? Who kept dogs that barked at strangers? She learned which merchants kept shoddy records, which warehouses held supplies unguarded, which soldiers gambled away their pay and might be convinced to look the other way for the right price. She gathered information like a scout, because that's what she was, had been for 3 years. The Rangers thought she'd been a captive. They were idiots. The Kiowa had tested her that first month, put her to work, gave her the hardest tasks, expected her to fail, to break, to prove she was useless. She'd hauled water until her shoulders screamed, scraped hides until her hands bled, tended fires in wind that threatened to scatter them, never complained, never quit, learned their language, studied their methods, proved herself. Koikon noticed, spoke to the elders, gave her a chance. You learn our ways, he'd said, or you die. The plains don't care about your feelings, she learned. And when she proved capable, when she showed she could track and hunt and survive, they'd given her more, trusted her. Let her ride with scouting parties. Let her see how they moved, how they avoided soldiers, how they struck and vanished. By the second year, she'd been suggesting routes, pointing out weak spots and settler defenses, sharing knowledge from her previous life. The layout of forts, the habits of rangers, the blind spots in their patrols. She'd never been a captive. She'd been a refugee who found a new country. And now, trapped in Jacksboro, she used those same skills in reverse. 3 weeks into her recovery, she'd mapped everything. She knew the patrol schedules, the supply routes, the weaknesses, all of it filed away, waiting. For what? She wasn't sure yet. Escape route, bargaining chip, revenge. Silas grew confident, thought his sister was healing, thought God's grace was working through him. The women of the church congratulated themselves. Another savage soul brought back to civilization. None of them noticed the ghost moving through their settlement at night, taking measurements, making calculations, planning. Sarah attended a quilting bee on a Thursday afternoon, sat with the other women, threaded needles, made small stitches, listened to gossip. They say the savages are getting bolder. Struck the Hendersons' ranch, ran off 30 head of cattle. Someone must be telling them where to hit. When the men are gone, the women all nodded, agreed. Never suspected the quiet woman with the downcast eyes might know exactly who that someone was. Because it had been her, before the rescue, before everything changed. She'd ridden with Koikon, had watched the ranches from ridgelines, had noted when the men left for roundups, when the defenses were thin, had passed that knowledge to warriors who needed every advantage to survive. Now she gathered different intelligence, but the skills remained the same. That night, she slipped out again, headed west, 2 miles into the prairie, to a specific lightning-struck cottonwood she'd spotted on the ride to the fort. At its base, she arranged rocks in a pattern, 3 in a line, 1 offset, the signal she and Koikon had developed. A message that meant, alive, waiting, watch for me. She didn't know if he'd find it, didn't know if he'd come looking. But she left it anyway. On the walk back, a dog started barking. The Simmons place. Sarah froze, became a shadow against shadows. The dog barked twice more, then silence. She made it home, up the stairs, into bed, her heart hammered. Adrenaline singing through her veins, the feeling of being alive, truly alive, not just existing in Silas's cage. Morning came. She made coffee, set out breakfast, played her role. You're looking healthier, Silas said. Color in your cheeks. I slept well. He smiled, touched her hand. I knew God would restore you. Sarah smiled back. Let him believe what he needed to believe. But at night, she'd be gone again, moving through Jacksboro like a ghost, gathering, planning, preparing. The town thought it was safe. thought its walls and soldiers and righteousness protected it. They had no idea they'd brought their worst enemy inside the gates. Captain Morrison found the pattern first. 6 ranches hit in 8 weeks, always when the men were gone. Always the same method: cut fences, scattered livestock, supplies taken. No one killed, just economic damage. Surgical strikes designed to bleed the settlements dry. He spread the map across the commandant's desk, red marks showing each raid. Someone's feeding them intelligence, Morrison said. Has to be. Major Whitfield studied the pattern. A sympathizer? Or a survivor who's turned? The words hung in the air like gun smoke. Silas was called to the fort. Sarah watched him go. Saw the tension in his shoulders. He returned 3 hours later. Face grim. They want to question you, he said. About what? The raids. They think. He couldn't finish. Couldn't voice the suspicion. They think I'm helping the Kiowa. His silence confirmed it. The interrogation happened the next day. Morrison and 2 other rangers. The commandant's office. Sarah in a wooden chair. Men standing around her like a tribunal. Walk us through your captivity, Morrison said. From the beginning. Sarah did. She told them about the wagon train, the raid. Her parents' death, being taken. Spoke in the flat monotone of trauma. Gave them exactly what they expected. And they kept you as a slave? Morrison asked. At first. Then? They put me to work, made me useful. Doing what? Tanning hides. Gathering wood, women's work. Morrison leaned forward. Did they ever take you on raids? No. You're certain? I was never allowed to leave the camp. The lie came easily, smooth as water. She'd had 3 weeks to prepare this story. To build the narrative of a helpless captive who'd survived through subservience. They questioned her for 2 hours, prodding, testing, looking for cracks. She gave them none. Did you ever hear them discuss targets? Talk about ranches or settlements? I don't speak their language. Not really. Another lie. She spoke Kiowa fluently, could curse in it. Pray in it, make love in it. Did you see maps, drawings? I saw nothing. I was a prisoner. They didn't trust me. Morrison's eyes narrowed. Then why are you still alive, Miss Kelly? They killed your parents. Killed half the wagon train. Why keep you? Sarah looked at him. I was useful. I could work. Young women have value to them. You know this. The implication hung there. Let them think what they wanted. Let them fill in the degradation with their own assumptions. Morrison's jaw tightened. That's enough. They released her. Silas walked her home. Silent. Shaken. That night he came to her room. Knocked. Waited for permission. They've asked me to watch you, he said. To report any unusual behavior. I understand. Sarah, I need you to be honest with me. Were you helping them? She looked at her brother. Saw the genuine anguish in his eyes. The hope warring with suspicion. She could crush him with the truth. End the charade. Instead, no, I was their captive. Nothing more. He wanted to believe, needed to believe, so he did. Good. That's good. He turned to leave. Stopped. I won't lock the door tonight. I trust you. Trust. The word tasted bitter. After he left, Sarah waited. Listened to him settle in his room. Listened to the house grow quiet. She didn't leave. Too risky. Morrison would have men watching, testing her. Instead, she planned. The raids had been her doing, not all of them. But enough. Information passed during her time with the band. Ranch locations, defense patterns, supply schedules. All of it delivered to warriors who used it to survive. She'd been Koikon's secret weapon. A white woman who understood both worlds, who could read maps stolen from settlers, who knew how the Rangers thought, how the army moved. She'd helped kill her own people's livelihoods. Felt no guilt about it, because they weren't her people anymore. That realization had come slowly, not in a single moment, but across months. Watching the Kiowa share everything. Food, shelter, risk. No one hoarded. No one took more than needed. The strong protected the weak. The hunters fed the widows. Children belonged to everyone. Compared to that, what did civilization offer? Property, ownership, individual wealth while neighbors starved. Silas's church talked about charity but practiced judgment. Talked about salvation while people died of hunger outside the door. The Kiowa were called savages, but they took her in. Fed her, taught her, made her family. The civilized world called her rescued. But locked her in rooms, burned her possessions, destroyed the only evidence she'd existed as something more than a victim. So she'd chosen, consciously, deliberately. She'd provided information that led to raids, had suggested targets, had sketched maps in the dirt showing weak points, had been, in Morrison's word, a sympathizer. No, sympathizers pitied from a distance. Sarah had been a participant. The question now, what to do with Morrison's suspicion? She could run, disappear into the night, head west toward the plains, try to find Koikon's band. Risky. The Rangers would track her, would follow, would find the band, endanger everyone. Or she could stay, play the victim, wait, let suspicion fade, then slip away when they stopped watching. Safer, slower, less satisfying. Sarah lay in bed, stared at the ceiling, calculated options. The pattern Morrison had found was too clear, too obvious. 6 ranches in 8 weeks. Someone would make the connection eventually, would realize the raids corresponded to her time with the Kiowa. She needed to muddy the water, create doubt, confusion. The next morning, at breakfast, she asked Silas a question. "Do you remember Tom Henderson?" Silas looked up from his eggs. "The rancher? Of course. Why?" "His ranch was hit last week, wasn't it?" "Yes. Why do you ask?" "When I was with them, I heard names. Didn't understand them then. But now, looking back," she trailed off. "Let him fill the gaps." "What names?" "Henderson, Blake, Morrison's ranch. They talked about these places. Pointed west when they said the words." Silas leaned forward. "You're saying you heard them planning the raids?" "Maybe. I don't know. I didn't understand then. I thought they were just words." "Sarah, this is important. What else did you hear?" Over the next hour she fed him information, carefully measured. Mixed truth with fabrication, named ranches. Some that had been hit, some that hadn't. Created a pattern that was there but wasn't. Real enough to sound true, vague enough to be useless. Silas took it to Morrison that afternoon. The Rangers spent days chasing her false leads, reinforcing ranches that didn't need it, missing patterns that actually mattered. Sarah had given them just enough to seem helpful, just enough to prove she was on their side, not enough to actually stop anything. 2 weeks later, another ranch was hit. The Sullivan place, 20 miles south. Cattle scattered, barn burned. Morrison questioned Sarah again. She claimed she'd heard that name too. Maybe. She wasn't certain. The memories were confused, traumatic. The language barrier made everything unclear. She cried, actually cried. Tears that came from a real place. Not from guilt, from frustration. From rage at being trapped in this performance while her real family struggled to survive on land that was being stolen acre by acre. Morrison's face softened. "It's not your fault, Miss Kelly." But it was. And she was proud of it. That night, she slipped out again. First time in 2 weeks, Morrison's surveillance had relaxed. They decided she was traumatized, cooperative, harmless. She walked to the cottonwood, found her rock pattern undisturbed, added a new configuration. 4 stones in a square. A message. Intelligence available. Send contact. She didn't know if anyone would find it. Didn't know if Koikon's band even ranged this far east anymore. The army was pushing them west, deeper into the plains, away from the settlements. But she left the message anyway. On the walk back, she spotted movement. A figure on horseback, distant, outlined against stars. Sarah froze, became stone. The rider sat motionless, watching, Too far to identify. Could be a ranger. Could be a settler. Could be Kiowa. The horse shifted. The rider turned, melted into darkness. Sarah waited 10 minutes, then continued home. Her heart pounded. Not fear, anticipation. Someone was watching, had seen her, had let her go. That felt like a message, too. 3 days later, Sarah found the response. Not at the cottonwood, in her own yard. A stone on the windowsill, small, round, river smooth, placed precisely where Silas couldn't see it from inside, but she would spot it from her room. She palmed it, brought it inside, examined it in lamplight. Scratched into the surface, a Kiowa symbol. 3 wavy lines, water, their sign for her. The name they'd given her when she'd proven herself. Speaks like water, for her fluency, for her adaptability, for the way she'd flowed into their lives. The stone meant, message received. I see you, wait. Sarah closed her fist around it, felt the smooth surface, the connection to something real. That night she didn't sleep. Couldn't. Sat by the window watching the dark, looking for movement, sign, anything. Nothing came. But 2 nights later, the dog at the Simmons place started barking. Then stopped, abruptly, mid-bark. Sarah slipped from her room, down the stairs. Out the back door. The settlement lay dark, no moon tonight. Perfect conditions. She walked north, away from town, into the grassland. 100 yards, 200. Far enough that Jacksboro became just shadows against the sky. She stopped, waited, listened. Wind through grass, distant coyote, the small sounds of night. Then, a whistle, 2 tones, rising then falling, a meadowlark call. Wrong for the season. Wrong for the hour. Sarah answered, same call, same pattern. From the darkness, a figure materialized, on foot, moving like smoke. Dressed in dark clothing, no weapons visible. He stopped 10 feet away, close enough to see, far enough to run. Speaks like water. The voice spoke Kiowa, low, careful. Sarah answered in the same tongue. I am here, Running Wolf. She knew him. A scout, younger than Koikon, fast, clever, good with horses and better with staying unseen. The people heard you were taken by the Bluecoats, he said. Koikon sent me to learn the truth. I live with the White Eyes, in the wooden lodges. They guard me. Why do you stay? Good question, direct, like all Kiowa questions, no small talk. No wasted words. They watch for me to run. If I leave, they follow, lead them to the band. Running Wolf nodded. Wise, you are alone? My brother keeps me. Thinks he protects me. And the soldiers? They suspect I helped the raids. They question but have no proof. Did you help? Sarah met his eyes. Yes, and I will again. Running Wolf smiled, teeth white in the darkness. Koikon said you would say this. He also said to tell you, the small one thrives. He has strong lungs. He misses his mother's milk. The words hit like a fist. Her son, alive, growing, without her. Sarah's throat tightened. She swallowed it down. Tell Koikon, I will return. When the time is right. He says the same. The band moves west. The Bluecoats push hard. We need every warrior. Every scout. I can help from here. Information. Movements. Supply routes. How? Sarah explained. The fort schedules. The patrol patterns. The supply wagons that ran from Fort Richardson to Fort Griffin. Lightly guarded. Predictable. Running Wolf listened. Committed it to memory. The Kiowa didn't write. Didn't need to. Their memories held everything. The wagon runs every 2 weeks, Sarah said. Next one leaves in 4 days. 8 soldiers, 6 supply wagons. They camp at Middle Creek the first night, 22 miles west. The soldiers get drunk. Discipline is poor. You are certain? I have walked their town, listened to their talk. They believe they are safe. Running Wolf nodded. This is good. The band needs rifles, ammunition, medicine, Your information is worth 10 warriors. The words shouldn't have warmed her, but they did. How do I reach you? She asked. The stone place. The lightning tree. I will watch every 3 days. If you have information, leave the sign. I will find it. And if I need to leave, same place. Different sign. 5 stones in a circle. I will come that night. Bring horses. They spoke for another 10 minutes. Sarah provided details, landmarks, times, everything she'd observed during her night walks. Running Wolf absorbed it all. Then, Koikon says one more thing. Yes? He says you made a choice. To be Kiowa, to be his woman, to be mother to his son. He says this choice cannot be unmade by white soldiers. You are Kiowa, always, until death. Sarah felt something break loose in her chest. Acknowledgement, validation, everything Silas's rescue had tried to erase. Tell him I remember my vows. Tell him I will return. Running Wolf clasped her forearm, warrior to warrior. Then he turned, disappeared into the grass like he'd never existed. Sarah stood alone, let the wind dry her eyes, composed herself, then walked back to Jacksboro, to her brother's house, to her cage. But the cage had a window now, and someone on the other side who remembered her real name. The next 4 days, Sarah played her role perfectly, attended church, joined the women at quilting, smiled when expected. Let Silas believe his prayers were working. Meanwhile she listened, confirmed details about the supply wagon, overheard conversations at the general store, the quartermaster complaining about paperwork, the sergeant griping about escort duty, 8 men, 6 wagons, Middle Creek camp. Everything she'd told Running Wolf. On the 4th day, the wagon left at dawn. Sarah watched from her window. The soldiers young and bored. The wagons heavy with supplies. 22 miles to Middle Creek, they'd arrive at dusk. Make camp, build fires. Drink the whiskey they thought was hidden in the supply barrels. By morning, the Kiowa would be gone. The wagons empty, the soldiers alive but humiliated. Sarah went about her day, normal, unremarkable. That evening, distant gunfire, faint, far enough that most people didn't notice. Sarah heard it, counted shots, sporadic, not a battle. A raid. She helped Silas with supper, washed dishes. Retired early, around midnight, riders came into town. The soldiers from the supply run. Empty wagons, shamefaced. The sergeant's report delivered to Morrison in the street. Loud enough that neighbors woke. Loud enough that Sarah heard every word. Came out of nowhere, sir. 20, maybe 30 hostiles. Hit us at dawn. We were barely awake. They took everything. Didn't kill anyone. Just took the supplies and vanished. Morrison's response, angry, controlled. How did they know? How did they know exactly where you'd be? The question hung in the night air. Sarah listened from her window. Smiled in the darkness. They'd never figure it out. She'd been too careful. Too patient. Given them just enough false information to seem helpful. Never enough to actually matter. She was Koikon's woman. His scout. His intelligence source. And she was winning. The next morning, she walked to the lightning-struck cottonwood, left a new pattern, 6 stones in 2 rows. The sign for success, continue. 3 days later, a new river stone appeared on her windowsill. The war continued, silent, invisible, devastating. And Sarah Kelly, the rescued captive, the victim everyone pitied, became the most dangerous person in Jacksboro. Morrison came to the house 6 weeks after the supply wagon raid. He brought 3 rangers, armed, serious. Silas met them at the door. Sarah heard it from upstairs, the heavy knock. Her brother's voice, high, nervous. Captain, what's this about? Need to speak with your sister, Mr. Kelly. Now. Sarah descended. Calm, face neutral, the performance second nature now. Morrison's eyes were different, harder, the benefit of doubt gone. Miss Kelly, we need you to come to the fort. Am I under arrest? We have questions, you'll answer them. One way or another. Silas stepped forward. Captain, my sister has cooperated fully. Your sister has been lying. Morrison's hand rested on his pistol. And people have died because of it. The words fell like stones. Sarah's expression didn't change. What happened? 4 soldiers dead, ambushed on patrol, 2 days ago. The hostiles knew exactly where they'd be. Exactly when. How is that my fault? Because you're the only one who could have told them. Morrison pulled out a paper, unfolded it, a map. This was found at the attack site, drawn in the dirt, showed the patrol route. Down to the mile marker. Want to tell me how the Kiowa got that information? Sarah looked at the map, recognized it. Her work. Information passed to Running Wolf 2 weeks earlier. She'd been too specific, too accurate. Mistake. I don't know, she said. I've been here. Under watch. Have you? Morrison stepped closer. The Simmons dog was killed 3 nights ago. Throat cut. Professional. The kind of thing a scout might do. You wouldn't know anything about that? Silence. Dangerous now. Sarah calculated options. Deny, deflect, run. Morrison read her face, saw the calculation. You're coming with us, now. Silas grabbed Morrison's arm. You can't just. The ranger shoved him, hard. Silas stumbled, fell. Your sister's a traitor, Kelly. Been working with the hostiles all along, feeding them information. Getting our men killed. That's not possible. Mrs. Henderson saw her, 4 nights ago. Walking past the fort, at midnight. Said she thought she was mistaken. Too afraid to report it. But she told me yesterday. After we found those bodies. Silas looked at Sarah, betrayal and confusion warring in his eyes. Sarah? She said nothing. No more lies. No more performance. It was done. Morrison grabbed her arm. You're coming now. Sarah moved. Fast, twisted, used his grip against him. The moves Koikon had taught her. Morrison stumbled. Released her. She ran. Not for the door, out the back, through the kitchen. She'd planned this route, practiced it. Behind her, shouts. Boots on wooden floors. The rangers following. Sarah hit the back door. Into the alley, left, between buildings. The settlement a maze she'd memorized. Gunshot, wide, panicked. They weren't trying to kill her yet. Just stop her. She vaulted a fence. Cut through a yard. A woman screamed. Sarah ignored her. The stable. Her destination. Horses inside. She'd been stealing time with them. Making friends. Learning which ones were fast. Which ones were mean. She burst through the stable door, grabbed a bridle. No time for a saddle. The big roan in the corner stall. Temperamental. Fast. Nobody else could ride him. Sarah could. She slipped the bridle on. The horse tossed his head. Recognized her. Settled. She let him out. Swung up. No saddle. Just her legs and balance and years of riding Kiowa style. The rangers arrived. Morrison raised his rifle. Don't make me shoot you. Sarah kicked the roan. The horse exploded forward. A rifle cracked. The bullet whined past. Close. She leaned low over the roan's neck. Gave him his head. He ran like he was born to it. Powerful. Smooth. Eating ground. Behind her, chaos. Men shouting. Horses being saddled. The chase beginning. Sarah guided the roan west. Toward open country. Toward freedom. The settlement fell away. Buildings giving way to scrubland. The prairie opening up like a promise. She looked back. 6 riders, maybe more coming. They'd follow. Push hard. Try to run her down before she reached rough country. The roan had speed, but they had numbers. Fresh horses waiting at the fort, organization. Sarah had experience. Knowledge, desperation. The chase lasted through the morning. The rangers gained, lost ground, gained again. Sarah used every trick. Cut through creek beds to hide tracks. Doubled back. Changed direction. But they stayed close. Too close. At noon she realized the truth. She wouldn't outrun them. Not on a stolen horse with no supplies, no water, no plan beyond escape. She needed to disappear. Really disappear. The Box Canyon, 10 miles north. She'd scouted it during her night walks, narrow entrance. Multiple exits if you knew them. Perfect ambush territory. She turned the roan, headed north. Let the rangers see the change. Let them think they had her cornered. They followed, confident now, closing in. Sarah entered the canyon. High walls on both sides. Red rock, shadows, the roan's hoofbeats echoing. She rode to the back. Appeared to stop. Trapped. The rangers entered. Spread out, cautious, rifles ready. Morrison called out, "Nowhere to go, Miss Kelly. Come peaceful and you'll get a trial." Sarah dismounted. Stood beside the roan, hands visible, appearing to surrender. The rangers approached. 60 yards, 50. Sarah slapped the roan's flank, hard. The horse bolted, ran past the rangers, creating confusion. Distraction. She ran the opposite direction, to the canyon wall, to the crack she'd found, narrow, hidden, a climber's route. Morrison shouted, rifle fire, bullets spanging off rock. Wild shots, panicked. Sarah climbed, fast, using handholds she'd memorized. 20 feet, 30, up to the rim. Behind her, the rangers dismounted, tried to follow, too slow, too heavy with their gear. Sarah reached the top, ran along the rim, 100 yards. To the second descent, another crack, easier, leading to a dry wash. She descended, hit the ground running, no horse now, on foot. But the rangers had to navigate the canyon, find their way around. By the time they reached this position, she'd be gone. Sarah ran, the dress tangled her legs. She grabbed the hem, tore it, ripped the skirt to her knees. Better. The corset choked her breathing. She reached back, found the laces. Had kept them loose, still too tight. She cut them with the small knife she'd hidden in her boot. The corset fell away. She could breathe. 5 miles of running. Hard terrain, rocky, uneven. Her muscles remembered this. All those days learning to move like the Kiowa, fast, efficient, reading the ground. She reached the lightning-struck cottonwood at sunset. The message stones scattered. She arranged them quickly. The circle, 5 stones, the sign for emergency. Come tonight. Then she hid, found a wash 100 yards away. Covered herself with brush. Waited. The rangers would search. They'd find the cottonwood, might find the stones, but they wouldn't know what they meant, wouldn't understand the language. Darkness fell. Sarah waited, listened, heard distant horses. The search continuing, moving past her position. Midnight came. The moon rose, quarter full, thin light. Then, movement, silent, a shadow against shadows. 2 horses, no riders visible until they were 20 feet away. Running Wolf, and behind him, on the second horse, Koikon. Sarah stood, stepped from the wash. Koikon dismounted, crossed the distance, stopped in front of her. They didn't speak. Words were insufficient. He touched her face. She leaned into his hand. Then he pulled her close. She pressed against him, felt the solid reality of him. The smell of smoke and horse and prairie. Home. Time to leave, he said in Kiowa. They will hunt you hard. I know. Running Wolf brought the second horse. Sarah mounted. No saddle, didn't need one. The child? She asked. Waiting. Your milk sister has fed him. He knows your voice. Sarah's eyes burned. She blinked it away. Koikon mounted his horse. We ride west. Hard. They will follow at dawn. Let them, Sarah said. They don't know the country like we do. Koikon smiled. You speak truth. They rode. Not at a run. Steady, efficient, eating miles. The prairie opening around them. Infinite and welcoming. Behind them, Jacksboro continued its search. Rangers cursing in the darkness. tracking a woman they thought they'd saved. They'd never find her. Sarah Speaks Like Water had vanished into the land that birthed her second life. The woman they'd rescued was gone, had never really existed. What rode west toward freedom was something they couldn't comprehend, couldn't cage, couldn't save. A Kiowa woman going home. Dawn found them 40 miles west of Jacksboro. Sarah rode beside Koikon. The horse moved easy beneath her. The rhythm familiar, right, the prairie stretched endless. No walls, no ceilings, just earth and sky and wind. They stopped at a creek. Watered the horses, drank. Koikon studied the back trail. They will come, he said. Rangers, soldiers, they will not let this rest. How long do we have? A day, maybe 2. Then the hunt begins in force. Running Wolf approached. The band is 3 days west. We should send word. Prepare them. Koikon nodded. You go. Fast. Tell them to move north. We will meet them at the Red River. Running Wolf mounted. Rode west. Vanished into the grassland. Sarah and Koikon continued. Slower now. Covering sign when possible. Using every trick to delay pursuit. They talked little, saved energy for writing. But the silence felt comfortable, complete. 2 people who understood each other beyond words. At midday, they stopped again. Rested the horses, ate pemmican from Koikon's bag. Sarah had forgotten how good it tasted. Real food, not the pale imitations the settlements called meals. You took risks, Koikon said. Staying in their town, gathering information. It was necessary. Was it worth it? Sarah considered. The supply wagon, the patrol ambush, the intelligence that had helped her people survive. Weighed against the cost, the separation, the danger, the months in a cage. Yes, Koikon studied her face. You are different, harder. The soft parts died in Jacksboro. He touched her hand. The strong parts survived. That is enough. They rode through the afternoon. The land changed, flatter, more open, less cover. Harder to hide, but easier to see pursuit. At sunset, they reached a small canyon. Good defensive position. They made camp. No fire, too risky. Sarah sat with her back against a rock, looked at the stars. The same stars that had watched her captivity. The same stars that had seen her transformation. The child, she said. Tell me about him. Koikon's face softened. Rare expression for him. He has your eyes. Your determination. He refused other milk for 3 days. Cried until your milk sister sang your songs. Then he accepted. He remembers me? Children remember what matters. You are his mother. That does not change. Sarah felt the weight of it. 2 months stolen. 2 months of her son's life she'd missed. The Rangers thought they'd rescued her. They'd kidnapped a mother, torn apart a family. Called it salvation. I will make them pay, she said. Quiet, certain. Koikon heard the tone. Revenge wastes energy. Survival matters more. Can't both matter? He considered. Perhaps, but revenge must serve survival. Not replace it. They slept in shifts. Koikon first. Sarah watched the back trail, listened. Nothing moved. The prairie held its breath. At midnight she woke him. Took her turn sleeping, dreamless. Deep, the sleep of someone who'd stopped running from herself. Dawn came. They rode north. Toward the Red River, toward the band. Behind them, the pursuit began. Sarah felt it. A pressure on the horizon. Rangers and soldiers. Maybe 50 men. Maybe more. Morrison would have called for reinforcements. Made this personal. They're coming, she said. Koikon nodded. I know. We have half a day, maybe less. They pushed the horses. Not hard enough to break them. Hard enough to buy time. At noon, they reached rough country. Broken land. Gullies and washes and rock outcroppings. Impossible terrain for a large force. Perfect for 2 people who knew what they were doing. They entered the maze, took a winding path. left false trails, backtracked, used every meter of elevation to hide their movement. Behind them, distant now, the pursuit slowed, spread out, tried to cut off exits, but there were too many exits, too many paths. The land itself worked against the Rangers. Sarah and Koikon threaded through, hours of careful navigation, until finally, at sunset, they emerged on the north side. And on the far bank, the band, 20 lodges, maybe 70 people, horses grazing, cook fires smoking, home. Sarah's throat tightened. After months of wooden walls and suspicion and captivity disguised as rescue, she was looking at freedom. They descended, forded the river, water to their horses' bellies. The current strong but manageable. People came to meet them, warriors, women, children, faces she recognized, names she remembered. And then, carried by an older woman, wrapped in soft hide, her son. Sarah dismounted, crossed the space between. The woman placed the child in her arms. He was bigger, heavier, his eyes focused on her face. Recognition dawned. He made a sound, not quite a cry, almost a laugh. Sarah pressed him close, felt his warmth, his aliveness. 2 months of absence collapsing into this single moment. "My son," she whispered in Kiowa. "I have returned." The child's hand found her face, touched, explored, claimed her as his. Around them, the band went quiet, respectful, acknowledging the reunion. Koikon stood beside her, placed his hand on her shoulder. The three of them, a family, intact again. That night, the band celebrated. Small celebration, quiet. The Rangers were close, pursuit possible. But they marked Sarah's return, her survival, her choice. She sat in Koikon's lodge. The tipi she'd helped build, the home she'd earned, the child nursed. Her milk had come back, painful at first, then relief. The physical connection restored. "They will follow," Koikon said. "Morrison will not stop. Then we keep moving." "For how long?" Sarah looked at him. "As long as necessary. This is my life, my choice. I will not let them take it again." He nodded. "Then we move north, deeper into our land, where the soldiers fear to go." They traveled for 3 days, hard travel, the whole band, moving fast, leaving minimal sign. The Rangers followed. Sarah could feel them. Closer some days, farther others, a constant pressure. On the 4th day, they reached the Palo Duro Canyon, deep, vast, a fortress of stone. The band descended, found camps in the protected areas, established defenses. "If they come here," Koikon said, "we can hold them. Few entrances, high ground, good water." Sarah studied the canyon, agreed. "And if they don't come?" "Then we have time, time to move deeper, time to vanish." That night, Sarah climbed to the canyon rim, looked east, toward Jacksboro, toward the settlements, toward everything she'd left behind. Out there, Silas probably prayed for her soul. The churchwomen probably gossiped about her fall. Morrison probably planned his pursuit. None of it mattered. She turned west, toward the canyon, toward the fires, toward her family. Behind her, bootsteps. Koikon joined her, stood beside her, silent. "Do you regret it?" he asked finally. "Leaving your people?" Sarah thought about the question, about the wagon train, her parents, the life she'd lived before, the woman she'd been. "I left one people for another. No regret in that. And if they catch us, if the soldiers come, then we fight. Or we run, or we die, but we do it together. As Kiowa, as family." Koikon took her hand. "You were always Kiowa, from the moment you chose survival over surrender, from the moment you learned our ways. The rescue changed nothing. It tried to. It failed." They stood together, watching stars emerge, the same stars that covered the plains. that had watched humans fight over land for centuries, that would watch long after this particular struggle ended. Below, a child cried, "Their son!" Sarah heard it, felt the pull. "I should go to him. We should go to him." They descended together, back into the canyon, back to the lodge, back to the life they'd built. The Rangers came 2 days later. Morrison led them. 20 men, tired, angry, they reached the canyon rim at dawn. Looked down at the Kiowa camp. Sarah saw them from below. Tiny figures against the sky. Morrison called down, his voice echoing. "Miss Kelly, Sarah Kelly, I know you're down there." Sarah stood. Walked to the center of camp, looked up at the rim. "Sarah." Morrison's voice cracked. "Come up, come home, you don't belong with them." She didn't answer, just stood, visible, defiant. "Please. Your brother's here. He wants to talk to you." A second figure appeared on the rim, Silas. Even at this distance, Sarah recognized him. "Sarah." Silas's voice, desperate, pleading. "Please, I can help you. God can heal you. Just come home." Sarah raised her hand, not in greeting, in dismissal. A single gesture that said everything. "I am home. This is my home. You are the strangers here." The figures on the rim stood for a long time. Morrison probably planning an assault. Weighing options, looking at the canyon's defenses. Then they withdrew. Stepped back from the edge, disappeared. The Rangers didn't descend, didn't attack. The canyon was too strong, the cost too high. The woman they'd come to rescue had made her choice too clear. They left. Sarah watched them go. Felt the release, the final severing. Koikon stood beside her. "They will return. Maybe, but not today. Not this week. And every day they delay, we move farther. Become harder to find. And if they never stop searching?" Sarah smiled, hard smile, predator smile. "Then I'll keep being a ghost they can never catch. Keep feeding information to warriors who need it. Keep fighting for this land. For this people. For this life." She turned to him. "I traded my life for a tribe. Best trade I ever made." Koikon pulled her close. "The tribe agrees." That night, the band moved. Deeper into the canyon. Toward places only the Kiowa knew. Toward sanctuary. Sarah rode with them, her son strapped to her back. Her man beside her. Her people around her. The Texas Rangers thought they'd rescued a captive. They'd actually created an enemy, a woman who knew both worlds. Who could move between them like smoke. Who would spend the rest of her life ensuring her chosen people survived. Sarah speaks like water. Mother, warrior, scout, Kiowa, the woman who'd traded one life for another and never looked back. Miles behind them, Morrison and Silas rode east, defeated, confused, unable to comprehend what they'd witnessed. They would tell stories about the captive who'd gone native, who'd refused rescue, who'd chosen savagery over civilization. They would never understand, never know the truth. That Sarah Kelly had died on a killing ground beside a burning wagon. What the Kiowa had given her wasn't captivity. It was resurrection. And she would defend that gift with every breath. Every skill, every ounce of determination. The settlements would continue to encroach. The army would continue to push. The Kiowa would continue to fight. And Sarah would be there, a ghost in the night. A voice whispering intelligence. A woman who'd found her place in the world and would burn it all down before letting anyone take it from her again. The plains stretched endless under stars. The same plains that had witnessed her transformation. That would witness her stand. Sarah looked at the horizon. Tomorrow they would move again. Keep moving. Keep surviving. Keep fighting. That was enough. That was everything. The woman who'd traded her life for a tribe had no regrets. Only purpose. Only home. Only the future she'd chosen with her own hands. And nothing, not rangers, not soldiers, not her own blood, would take it from her again.